will serve as the acting head coach. Offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt is expected to call the offensive plays in place of Stefanski. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin says this won't change his game plan.
Obviously, I know very little about Coach Prefer in terms of global decision-making as it pertains to being the head coach. But I'm sure that they're going to disperse many of those responsibilities. Sure, he'll be the guy acting as head coach on the sideline and making decisions pertaining to challenges and things of that nature. But I imagine behind the scenes that they're going to disperse Coach Stefanski's responsibilities. And so it's not just Coach Prefer. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about that.
Aditi Kingabwala is covering the Browns-Steelers game for us.
Well, just as Mike Tomlin can frame this as business as usual for this season, so too can the Browns. If Kevin Stefanski has had a calling card all year, it's that he doesn't blink. In fact, that's the phrase that quarterback Baker Mayfield used to describe him. And it is the personality this team is expecting to espouse this week. So now, Stefanski is expected to indeed participate in the team's Zoom meetings and all their virtual preparation. The offensive meetings have been led by coordinator Alex Van Pelt all year anyway, and so that doesn't change. And while it will be Van Pelt who calls the plays Sunday instead of Stefanski, nobody is expecting wholesale change in what the Browns do. On a personal note, this is certainly disappointing for guard Joel Bitonio. He is the player that Stefanski gave the game ball to after Sunday's win over the Steelers punched the Browns' playoff ticket. Bitonio is the Browns' longest tenured player. He has endured the most losing, the most upheaval, and he has always represented the Browns with utmost class.
Over the NFC, Alex Smith is still nursing a strained calf ahead of the Washington football team's wildcard game against the Buccaneers. Coach Ron Rivera said they might turn to a unique solution, rotating between Smith and backup Taylor Heineke.
Honestly, the thing that we have to be willing to do and we have to really think about is whether or not to rotate him in and out with Taylor. I mean, we have to definitely look at that. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. We're going to play a very aggressive defense this week. And, obviously it's something we most certainly have to look at.
Damian Tomlinson joining me on. We love a good little throwback picture there. All right, LT, what do you think of this quarterback rotation situation in Washington? Do you think this is a good plan heading into the wild card round?
Well, MJ, I think this is probably the only plan that Ron Rivera has when he's looking at his quarterback, Alex Smith, the way he's limping around in the past game. If you look at Alex Smith last game rolling out to his right, he was limping on that leg. You know that cap was bothering him. So he's looking at this next game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is a defense that loves to bring pressure. They blitz on about 40% of the pass snaps. So they're going to be coming after Alex Smith. And if he can't protect himself, if he can't move around in the pocket and be himself, what good is Alex Smith? So I think Ron Rivera is setting it up, telling us that he may need to use Taylor Heineke in this game if Alex Smith can't move around.
But still, Alex Smith playing in a playoff game after all he's been through, unbelievable. All right, let's talk AFC. Titans-Ravens, first game on Sunday. How do the Ravens get past Tennessee?
Well, look, Tennessee is a defense that is a bend but don't break. They're going to give you everything underneath. They don't play press man a bunch, only about 17% of the time. So Lamar Jackson, especially on early downs, he has to take those easy throws. They're going to give him everything underneath. Take those easy 5-yard throws. Keep the chains moving or stay ahead of the chains. Make it 2nd and 5, 3rd and 3. If the Baltimore Ravens can live in that world, they're going to be just fine because we know they're going to be able to run the football. But they cannot live in 2nd and long, 3rd and long. They have to take the easy stuff, especially on early downs.
For them, it's about learning from the past, fixing that to make sure they get a different result this time around. All right, LT, thanks. Everybody get out your 2021 planners because here is your full wildcard weekend schedule. Write it down. On Saturday, we started off with Colts and Bills, Rams, Seahawks, and then Bucs at Washington. Sunday, you've got Ravens, Titans, then Bears, Saints, and the finale there, Browns, Steelers. Okay, outside of the playoffs, there is no bigger story in the league right now than what's going on with the Eagles. Doug Peterson taking heat for how he handled their quarterback situation Sunday night, and the question remains what to do with Carson Wentz. There are reports that Wentz wants to be traded. Here's a wider view of Carson Wentz's career in Philly. He led the league with 19 giveaways before being benched for Jalen Hurts late in the season, but the real key with Wentz is the cash, as he carries a $34.7 million cap hit in 2021. Let's get to our Super Bowl winning front office, Coach Brian Billick, Scott Pioli. Now, this weekend, John Walford updated his LinkedIn page, so we figured a little resume evaluation was a good way to start this quarterback chat. What conversations, though, will the Eagles be having about Carson Wentz's future? Scott, start us off here.
Well, the first thing that they'll be talking about is his cap number. They just mentioned that it was a $34.7 million cap. But what happens if you trade him or cut him? The reality is his contract is so difficult in terms of the acceleration, they can't cut him. But here's the other key factor in terms of a trade. On the third day of the league year this year, Carson Wentz is due a $10 million roster bonus. So the Eagles are going to have to decide whether they want to invest another $10 million, have an additional cap hit, or trade the player. And the reality is, as much as you say you may want to trade or move on from Carson Wentz, Coach Billick, I throw it to you. You always have to have a replacement. And if you do that, who's going to line up and play quarterback?
Yeah, that's always the second question that you have to ask in any of these changes we're talking about. If this not this guy, then who? With regards to Carson Wentz, it's hard for me to look at what happened to him this year, and I'm talking about the disaster in the offensive line, receivers in and out of the lineup, and say, okay, this guy is responsible and is not a good player anymore. I just don't see that. And for them to take that leap of faith and say, no, I don't think he can play anymore, because of the cap number, it may save them from making a bad decision, because if for whatever reason they do, someone could be getting a heck of a player. Now, maybe something has happened, and maybe he has changed, but the disaster that was the offensive line, the receiving core, everything that went on early, it's hard for me to just dismiss it and say, okay, Carson Wentz can't play anymore.
Oh, it is a lot to unpack, as always. Again, I'm glad I'm not the one who has to make these decisions. All right, let's switch to a team that is playing in the postseason. The Bears went back and forth with their QB situation this season between Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky. But whether you call him Mitch or Mitchell, the man has had mixed results as the Bears QB. He has a winning record and is preparing for his second postseason with the team after being benched 7 games this year. The team has declined his 5th-year option for 2021, opening the door to free agency this March. So you have the details there as evaluators. What are they discussing in Chicago when it comes to Trubisky's future, Scott?
Again, I think they're going to look at the evaluation and say, here's a player that's gotten significantly better over the course of this season. He's shown that he can play well. He's shown that he's taken to the playoffs. Only they will know internally what kind of things they had to do in order to make Mitch Trubisky a better football player. And was it all just Mitch? Now, you know that they last spring did not exercise the option, so he's facing unrestricted free agency this year. The thing that they can do right now is slap the franchise tag on him. It's probably against a $200 million cap, going to be in the area of about $27 million. They have to decide if they're going to do that to control the player, to keep him back in a pay-for-play season. And then, you know, Coach Billick, again, the head coach has to be in this decision.
Yeah, and it's a head coach that's involved on the offensive side of it. Here's the problem with Mitchell Trubisky, and I think it's emblematic of the entire league. We wrote about it in the Q Factor. In what world does Mitchell Trubisky go number 1 and Deshaun Watson and Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes go 10 and 12. I mean, what world does that happen in? Here's my problem with Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah, he's been in and out of the lineup. There's a lot of different things. I think we've seen as good as Mitchell Trubisky can be. I don't see a huge upside for him. And I think that's where they have to look at it and say, yes, we know better than anybody else. We see him in practice. We've already made this move one time. We've already decided, this head coach has, that Mitchell Trubisky wasn't good enough and that we were going to go with Nick Foles. And it ends up he come back, he plays pretty good. But to me, it seems like you've already made this decision. Has he really done enough in the last part of it to say, yeah, there's a bigger upside for Mitchell Trubisky? I question that.
All right, we have one last evaluation here. The Jets and their QB, Sam Darnold. We saw Joe Flacco in at QB throughout the season, but let's take a look at Sam Darnold's work so far. So not the best numbers in 2020 for Darnold. 2,200 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, and 11 picks led to a league-low passer rating. He's missed at least 3 games each season and will be in the 4th year of a rookie contract. So what do you think they're talking about in New Jersey when they look at Sam Darnold's performance and overall sort of portfolio of work, Scott?
The first thing is they have to hire their head coach. And once the head coach is in there, the GM and the head coach will sit down and